things that is often said to me by head teachers in co-educational schools is that single-sex schools don't adequately prepare their pupils for the world of work. And we live in a world where boys and girls go to university, men and women go to university, men and women coexist in the workplace. And there is this very strong argument coming through, and has been coming through in the last couple of years, that if you go to a single-sex school, you're not really equipped to work alongside the opposite sex. You know, you might be very quick to accuse a guy of harassing you, whereas if you'd kind of grown up in school alongside them, you'd realise that actually that's part of the interplay between the sexes, and vice versa. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean,
oh, I'm so glad you asked me that question. There's a lot of giggling in the front here from people who know me quite well. Well, tell you what, shall we have a look at that world of work, shall we? The Weinstein scandal, where women were threatened sexually, asked to go into bathrooms in order to get a job. The House of Commons, where only 32% are women. There's an amazing figure in 2015, the total number of women who have been elected ever has only just matched the number of men in the House of Commons currently. The world of politics, the centre of our democratic state, where women, and thank goodness we have taught women to be resourceful and gritty. They actually ran a WhatsApp group in order to keep themselves safe. And we say that co-educational schools are preparing women, certainly, possibly, for that environment. I think it's outrageous. I'm sorry, but I do. And I think that the best thing we can do for women in the world of work is to create strong, confident, happy women who call it out where we need to. My daughter, who's over there, sorry, I'm going to embarrass her. My daughter, who's over there, rang me up last week and she said, Mum, Mum, she said, there's this incident where the men were talking, she's on her own, the men were talking, and they were talking about a woman who'd been quite feisty in a presentation, and they talked about her wanting to sleep with her boss. That's now. That's 2017, and I'm afraid, as the mother of 3 girls, and as the mother of as the headmistress of a school, I feel really passionately that until there is parity and gender parity in the workplace, then there's absolutely a role for single-sex schools, and long may they prosper.
Would you say...
Uh-oh. Can I calm down now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, would you say to parents, though, who are looking at a single-sex school, that one of the things they ought to be looking at is whether that school actually makes provision for pupils to mix with pupils of the opposite sex? I mean, I know a lot of schools, St. Paul's and so on, that they're St. Paul's girls and St. Paul's boys in the 6th form now are deliberately having activities and lessons and so on together, because it is important to be able to understand. And
yes.
Yeah.
It is so important, and it was interesting, wasn't it? I don't know if you read the article this morning from Simon Henderson talking about his school and talking about Eton and how they're looking for more links with girls' schools, of which luckily we are one. I'd like to talk to you, if I may, about Alia. Alia joined our school. She is a year 10 pupil, so that means she's 14 years old. And we have a joint, it's not about socials. I'm mainly boarding. I do have quite a lot a day. But it's not about sort of standing awkwardly on either sides of the hall anymore. It really is about girls going into boys' schools and sharing their views. So we have an intellectual debating society called the Athena Society, which matches up with Eton. And normally we go in and there are 15 boys, 15 girls, and they sit round a table. Alia decided she wanted to talk about Islamophobia, and directed by the leader of the society at Heathfield, she wrote down 3 or 4 bullet points that she wanted to discuss. Now, I said normally 15 boys or girls come in. 93 boys signed up for this talk. Alia stood up at a microphone and spoke for a half hour passionately about how Islamophobia had treated her and her family. It's important, I think, not just for girls' schools to socialise with boys and get used to them, but actually to lead the debate.
Okay. When you think about the future, I mean 10, 15 years' time, where do you think the single-sex schools will be? Will we have more single-sex schools, fewer single-sex schools, more diamond models? Where are we going with this?
I think that's really hard for me to answer. I think a school has responsibilities, not just obviously to the pupils within it, but also to the community locally and to the community globally. And I think in 10, 15 years' time, the only prerequisite will be a really, really good education. I think the quality of education and how education will look in those schools will be different. But as to the makeup of them, they should all be really good schools. That's what matters.
And finally, I mean, as a parent and as a head teacher, I mean, what are your tips for choosing a good school? What should parents be looking at?
I have a number of different tips. I think the first thing that I say is you must know your child, and sometimes you don't necessarily, and I know that sounds strange, but you don't necessarily, because you don't see all aspects of them, which is why it's so important to consult with your child's teachers and so important to consult with your child's head teacher, because they will have a good idea not just of who your child is, but how they learn and what kind of environment would suit them best. Most of you will have a long list of schools and you will go to these schools, but be very careful. In my experience, and certainly I'm talking about girls, but also boys, young people are very opinionated and confident about the kind of school they want. Only show a child the school that you are happy with, because otherwise that could be difficult. Ignore dinner party hearsay. Ignore it completely. It's based on past data. It's based on one person's experience. And normally be very aware that when you go into a school, you are being interviewed just as much as your daughter or son. But talking about dinner party hearsay, it's really important. Schools change quickly, but reputations linger. Go to the actual school. Go and walk around. Be open and honest with the head of the school you're looking at. I'm somebody, and I hope it's come over today, I'm very frank. I shoot from the hip. I can't lie. I physically can't. It's really difficult. And I can't hide it. Make sure you meet the head. Does their vision of your daughter mesh with theirs? Are they somebody who talk about my girls, or are they somebody that talks about your daughter and how we can raise her aspirations? 7 years with teenagers. I don't know about you, but certainly a day sometimes can be a long time with a teenager. Over 7 years, there are going to be niggles, there are going to be worries, there are going to be concerns. If you pick up the phone to that person, can you talk to them? If you're worried that your daughter doesn't have a friend in the year group or has come to you saying that she didn't get a very good essay or something, can you talk to them? Because that's really important. Trust yourself and your instincts. We've all walked into houses and thought, yes, this is it. And we've also walked into houses where we've thought, no way, I've seen it. I think I've got to put up with the estate agent's patter just to be polite, but actually I know within 5 seconds. I've seen so many smiles, my goodness, I should go into this. But trust yourself, trust your instincts, and you know your child best. Emotion is as important as facts. When I tell the girls when they're looking at universities, I have a girl who went up the drive of Exeter and said, this is where I'm going to go. And I've had other people who've walked, they've taken a huge train drive up to Scotland and said, that was a waste of time. I knew in the first 10 minutes I didn't want to go there. The same is absolutely true of schools.
Thank you, that's great. This is a slightly sneaky question in at the end, but
right, I'm sorry.
But one of the things I've been reporting on quite a lot in single-sex schools is this whole debate around LGBTQ policies and so on. And I've talked to head teachers of girls' schools who've said, well, we don't say girls anymore, we say pupils, we don't say girls go to lessons. So I wanted to ask you, do you say girls go to lessons or do you say pupils go to lessons? And why is that debate about gender-neutral language important, or is it important in your view?
Well, I think that goes back to celebrating all that is joyous about women. And there's something reductive, isn't there, about saying students. Does that mean we don't think girls is positive enough? I haven't had, so far, I have not had, for example, transitioning issues. But I think what is most important in my school is treating every single girl as an individual. And if a girl felt strongly enough that she wanted to transition, then I would ask her how she would want me to say and what she would feel most comfortable with. Because for me, again, it goes about self-awareness, it goes about thinking of other people and empathy.
Thank you.